Okay. All right. So we can begin.
Want to start with the roll call, Heidi?
Yes. Okay. I'm calling the roll call now. Heather Anderson Haynes,
Here.
Dr. James Bolton,
Here.
Alex Chan. Was that yet? Yes. Thank you. Michael Asiri,
Here.
Bethany Peak, Shalak Richards,
Here.
Sal Torres. Okay. We have a quorum.
So in the absence of our chair and our two vice chairs, we're going to need a chair for this session. So with that, I'll open it up and see if there's a motion.
I move for Michael Asiri to be our chair pro term for this session.
Second.
Can I get a?
Okay. And I will call another roll call for that. Heather Anderson Haynes,
Yay.
Dr. James Bolton,
Yes.
Alex Chan, Michael Asiri.
I think I have to
I
abstain.
abstain from that one. Shalak Richards.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion is passed.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone to attend today's meeting on November 29th, 2021 at around 10 a.m. We apologize for the small logistical delay. But with that out of the way, let's begin. First, I'd like to check for public comments. As noted on our agenda for today's meeting, public comments during this meeting will be limited. Members of the public wishing to comment will encourage to submit written comments prior to the meeting to ensure that the committee will have time to consider these comments. Your written comments have been considered by the committee and will shape our discussions and deliberations here today. We thank you for that. And I think for time-wise, we'll limit public comments for around 2 minutes because I believe we have quite a bit of stuff to go on the agenda. With that said, do we have any public comments? I should also note that if you want to make a public comment, you should raise your hand on Zoom. Oh, I forgot how they do that on the, there you go. My apologies. To facilitate hearing as many members of the public as possible, I encourage you not to repeat points that were made by previous speakers. As I noted before, comments will be limited to 2 minutes. At 2 minutes, we will turn off your microphone and call the next member of the public. And to allow the working group the time needed to deliberate on the important topics that will be discussed today, we will not be able to hear more than a maximum of 30 minutes of total public comments. For those of you who are participating via Zoom video, you should have a function for virtually raising your hand. It's a hand icon and should appear at the bottom center of your screen. Click on that to make a public or to show that you want to make a public comment. If you wish to make a public comment, please click on that. Sorry. And the State Bar staff will call you in the order that they identify your raised hand. For those of you who are participating by phone, you may virtually raise your hand by pressing *9. Again, that's *9 or star key, then the number 9 on your phone. Thank you. With that, are there any public comments?
There appears to be one person hand raised.
Yes, I see one person hand raised as well. They, for a brief moment, unraised and raised it back. So I think it's to indicate there is one. With that, I'll call on Jose Castaneda to make a 2-minute public comment.
Heidi, you're going to need to unmute. that
Yeah,
person.
I just actually, I accidentally, let's see.
Okay, that looks like unmuted right now,
Okay,
but the hand is down, so I don't know.
So Jose Castaneda, as soon as you begin speaking, your 2 minutes will stop. Maybe you have to unmute yourself on Zoom. I think on our end, it shows you unmute. It appears that Jose Castaneda is having some technical issues. We can move on to anyone else who wants to make a public comment, and then we'll try to circle back to see if he's able to, or she is able to fix it. Are there any other public comments?
I don't see any, but Michael, one comment that Mr. Castaneda has shared, he said that he's emailed documents to Heidi to distribute to the working group members. Heidi,
Wonderful.
are you in receipt of those documents?
I would just received them this morning. The deadline for written documentation was last Wednesday at 5 p.m. And I can distribute those now though, if you would like me to.
Yes, that works. So,
Okay.
so Michael, I think there are no more public comments.
Definitely, and I see in the chat that you're very welcome, Jose Castaneda. He put on thank you with a nice little message, which I won't repeat for just keeping him private for a recorded session. Thank you, we definitely received it. We will be receiving it shortly. That said, are there any more public comments? If not, we'll move on to the presentation for today.
I think we may have to approve the minutes.
All right, thank you
Yeah.
for that.
Mhm.
With that, is there a motion to approve of last meeting such minutes?
So.
So
one
moved.
minute. Mhm. And we,
Is a second, or can I second it? I'll second that.
okay. Then I will do a roll call. Heather Anderson Haynes,
Yes.
Dr. James Bolton,
Yes.
Alex Chan, Michael Asiri,
Yes,
Bethany Peak, Shalak Richards,
Yes.
and Sal Torres. The minutes have been approved.
wonderful. With that, we can move on to the session, or the presentation for today. I believe Ms. Lisa Cummins is going to present.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
So what is on the agenda is a discussion and approval of staff proposed guiding principles and examination development to minimize potential bias in bar exam questions. So I believe that the working group members have been emailed the draft guiding principles that staff are proposing. I will be sharing that on the screen so that for discussion purposes. And let me see, make sure I have that. Yeah, does everybody see this? Okay, so so I open it up for discussion. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review before the meeting, and you know, if the group has comments, suggestions, additions, edits, I'd be happy to be the scribe for those.
A question is from me, at least, without indicating anything else. Were there any particular moments or difficulty parts when constructing this?
I don't think so. I went ahead and I did, in addition to considering the working group comments at our last meeting when we went through the selected questions, as well as staff got together before this meeting in order to sort of compare notes and put our heads together. I also did a little bit of internet research in terms of other testing agencies such as ETS to look at what they use or have published in terms of any guiding principles or guidelines that they use to minimize bias in their development of their test questions. So I kind of looked at it mainly to see whether or not what we had put together and what this group has discussed are consistent, and they seem to be. So I think this is something that is has been considered by other testing agencies, and a lot of what we've talked about are things that they also have in their documents that I found on the internet.
Wonderful, excellent to hear that. Was able to review, or we review it just now. Everything seems to be well done. I applaud everyone's efforts just to make it succinctly intact. I'm trying to see if there's anything that we need to add on. Probably something to do with age might be something. I'm not saying anything about age experience or age differences. And that's something in which I think might be related to all the different tech related questions. That's my only comment I have for it.
Do you have a suggestion on where to put that in here, or add something, another bullet point, or add it?
Yeah, I'm looking at that right now.
Let me know if you want me to scroll also.
If you want to probably do a really quick add in, probably the fourth bullet point, which is the shortest one of the bunch, strive for a balanced or neutral representation as to general culture, age, and ethnic group, or we can put age wherever in that category. Age could be at the end of that, because I think cultural and ethnic groups should be more categorically together. And that's something in which it's difficult to really quantify, because as the legal profession tries its best to correlate with technology, it's just difficult to really provide neutral age-related questions that are not relevant for today, because the clientele is growing with the technology, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
But-
and normally in exam questions, we I don't know of a lot of situations where we have anybody's age specified, or not necessarily even specified, but discussed, other than if it's pertinent to the question. For example, if there's a minor, involved, or somebody, if it's pertinent to the question, right?
Oh, interesting. I was looking at more aspects of the implementation of a technology, like a new type of virtual reality, but calling it VR, or mixed reality, without really making a distinction, and people just don't know what mixed reality is, because that's a more new technology. I mean, the best example I have, and I won't delve into it because I'm opposed of it, will be any references to, let's say, blockchain contracts. No one knows, I mean, few people will know what blockchain is, and that just convolutes the language of the question. So that's more, I'm looking at items. But Ms. Cummins, you brought up a wonderful point about the age of the participants.
So maybe it's generational, not age, is maybe a better way to capture it. Generational differences or something like that.
Definitely. Because granted, it's blockchain technology, like I say, kind of opposed of it, so that's my bias. It may become something, may be related later on, but I don't see us really testing that because it's not really pertinent for contracts in general. What the ball should be testing on contracts questions without convoluting it with technology, mumbo jumbo stuff like NFTs, ICOs, and I forgot the new one, COAs or something like that, or DOAs. Not dead on arrival, but there's a new term for blockchain that they announced recently, which, like I say, it just is confusing for people to mention all those because all that is related to blockchain right now. And that's something in which a question, like I said, my main concern is technology related questions may inadvertently give an unfair advantage to someone who knows it, or disadvantage someone who just doesn't know that much technology and shouldn't really realistically know that new age technology, or I don't know. Based on the bar exam itself, it should just highlight and focus on the actual legal content because it's assumed that attorneys and clientele as well will be up and up with technology as time progresses. But we want to ensure that at least the attorneys have a good range of understanding of legal concepts, such as in contracts.
So I'm wondering whether or not that might be encompassed in the first bullet point in terms of contexts that are equally familiar and then using words and terminology that have common meaning, or down here at the bottom page where it says avoid language and questions that assumes all test takers have the same life experience, maybe also the same, same generational experience or something like down here.
Or even technology experience might be a fair assessment for the last bullet point on page 1, the avoid language in question.
Yeah, rather than here where we put generational differences. I mean,
Yeah.
I throw that out, whether or not what everybody thinks.
I'll open up to any other discussions with other people because I try not to monopolize it.
I think that as regards to the generational thoughts, I think the first bullet point encompasses that, and then potentially right in the introductory paragraph, you could add age or generation. So you have despite differences in characteristics that include but are not limited to disability status, ethnic group, etc. One of those identifiers could be age or generation, and that might cover a little bit of Michael's concern if it's right up front in the other things that we're asking exam developers to consider as a form of bias. I don't know, does that help, Michael? It was just a thought.
No, I think I totally agree with that. I just put it on the 4th bullet point because that's a easy and fast addition without editing too much stuff. But no, I think your point is wonderful in terms of putting it amongst the intro and I guess coming back to, the last bullet point on page 1, if you scroll down. A foreign language in question that assumes all test takers have the same life experience, socioeconomic status, or family background. I'm not sure if we want to put technology background because we should test basic technology. People need to know what smartphones are. I mean, compared to flip phones now in these days, because most of the clientele have smartphones, or at least can get smartphones. But I mean, I guess the best way is, I think will be like a question in regards to asking about an app or opening up an app. Most people will know what apps are. However, people who use more specifically not smartphones may not have an understanding of that, what an app is or an application on a smartphone device, and that's, it might require some knowing. Whether or not we should include it at that bullet point, if at all, I'll leave it up to the group to think and consider.
I think Heather has a raised hand.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't.
Mine, but it's not on that point.
Oh,
It's on
okay.
it's a different point.
Okay.
Whenever we're ready to move to one of the other bullets.
Since I don't think we can add it, or we can just remove and move on to Heather's point. Since no one seems to share the same sentiment as I am, we can move on to Ms. Heather Anderson's point.
Michael, I would think maybe life experiences encompasses the technological exposure too. So, and I was looking at it thinking if we specifically call out or carve out technology, will it make an absence of other life experiences that we, should be listing too? So maybe, hopefully it will be encompassed in that. I think it's a great point, but I think it's one of several things that, go into someone's life experience that others may not have. The 2 bullet points I wanted to address on 2 above that, the one that starts with avoid construct irrelevant content that raises strong negative feelings in test takers. I think we can take out that raises strong negative feelings in test takers, because we should just avoid construct irrelevant content, period. Like if it's irrelevant, we shouldn't throw it in there to cause confusion or distraction, even if it's not necessarily emotionally charged. So I just feel like you don't need to qualify it. We should just take that second part out.
So take from where to where?
Take out from that raises strong negative feelings in test takers.
Okay, but then do you want to put
So then you could say, so test takers are not necessarily angered, offended, upset, or otherwise distracted. Because some of the things we identified in some of the previous questions were not necessarily emotionally charged, but they were certainly distracting because they were unfamiliar in some way or just created an unnecessary red herring. So just think we can broaden that. And then on the next bullet point, avoid use of sexist language and stereotypes. Can we change it to avoid use of offensive language and stereotypes? Because I think it's broader than just sexism. Those are my 2 thoughts. It looks great. Thank you.
Is everybody okay with those changes?
My comment was to the bullet point that Heather raised. That's why I had my hand raised. So I remember a great amount of discussion around this at our last meeting. And my comment was only that I don't know if we need a qualifier after, in that regard, avoid sensitive or emotionally charged topics. If there could, I'm truly open to other people's thoughts as to whether we need to say unless, necessary to the facilitation of the exam, because I remember a great deal of conversation around whether or not murder or domestic violence or other things, intimate partner violence, should be included, and some feeling like there are, that does come up in the practice of law. And so perhaps people should be tested on those, and it's just being mindful of how much they're being tested on it. So I think that as a whole, as a committee, we're not necessarily saying that people, or as a working group, we're not necessarily saying that people should not be tested on emotionally charged topics, but rather that it should be done with a certain degree of sensitivity. At least that was my takeaway. So I'm just wondering if after that, it should be in that regard, avoid sensitive or emotionally charged topics, unless necessary to the test, or I don't have the correct formulation, and I'm truly wondering if other people feel the same.
I wonder, could you just add unnecessarily before sensitive?
Maybe, yeah.
Avoid unnecessarily sensitive or emotionally charged topics, because if it's necessary, to your point, to test the subject matter, but not just as enhancement for.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Heather.
That's an excellent
I'm
point.
not spelling this correctly. Oh.
Can I just say, Lisa, that I have the fear of being the person who has to do the typing or take the notes on the board
Me
because of the
too.
spelling. So I think you're doing a great job because that is like, oh my goodness, everyone's going to see the red line underneath. So you're doing a great job.
Thank
I
you.
have that same fear. I never want to be the one editing in real time with everyone watching. You're doing great. It's like-
Well, I'm wondering too whether or not I should be doing, redlining rather than, maybe I should be doing redlining because I'm deleting stuff. So if you prefer me to do redline, I can certainly set it at that.
Maybe we can either redline or not. I think we have to make an amendment anyways to accept this and all. Oh, Alex Chen, you have any?
Yeah, the one that this is to piggyback on what Autumn just talked about with respect to this provision. Yeah, I remember one of the tests, it was pretty graphic. It's basically, drawing I think it was the criminal type question where the criminal basically, draws the fingers and places across the throat, right? It creates a lot of imagery that is entirely necessary for the sake of the exam. And yet, as I'm sort of going through all of these bullet points, I try to ask myself, does any one of them actually address the very point? And I think the closest one is this one, but it still doesn't really address, the necessity of making sure that we avoid the use of any language or content that actually could give rise to graphic violence or graphical images in testers' mind, right? That's just not necessary in my opinion. And so when I'm looking at this provision that we're still revising, it doesn't always address it because I do understand what sensitive and emotionally charged means, but because we have different testers coming from all walks of life, what's sensitive to someone may not always be sensitive to the other person. So I just want to be more explicit in terms of basically saying just avoid the use of language or content that could give rise to graphic violence, right? Like in this instance, in this exam, by describing someone draw a finger across the throat, that by itself, right? Nothing wrong with it, but once you sort of put everything in context and start thinking about it, it's pretty graphical, I think. So anyway, that's just one point I want to throw out there. If you feel like this bullet point addresses it, I'm fine with it. Otherwise, maybe we need another bullet point to get that point across.
That is a good point. Is there anything you want to add on to, or should we just take that into consideration?
What's so funny here is with this bullet point, I think it was it Shalag or it was Heather? I forgot. One of them said we should just make it an absolute thing instead of putting all this caveat. We should just avoid any irrelevant content altogether, right? And now, we're trying to explain ourselves so that tests are not necessary. That's irrelevant, right? Bottom line is you should just avoid irrelevant content. But then what I would recommend is just perhaps to have another bullet point that says, avoid content that would unnecessarily anger, offend, upset, or otherwise distract, test takers as a separate bullet point instead of sort of put one together. I just don't think they jive very well together.
I like that. I agree.
I agree so.
Yeah, that works for me as well.
And not to make light of this subject matter, one of my comments will have been with the language of avoiding content that's unnecessarily angles. I'll say that tort law angles me. I never did like torts. But that's something in which, yeah, I think separating them out, excellent suggestion, and as well as just tightening up the language, I guess, for everybody previously. Is there anything else?
So does
I mean,
that
like,
look good what I'm sorry, does that look good? Would I, the avoid the content that unnecessarily, is that
Yeah,
okay?
that looks good to me. Yep. Good job, Lisa.
Mhm.
I think it's good on the first page. Let's see the second. Yeah. So last bullet point. I know we put it down, but is it gonna be the same process as we did it before about in considering fairness and bias? Sets of test questions should be reviewed as a group for each exam. Is that just how we normally do it for CBE in terms of reviewing before we certify the questions? Or is there gonna be an additional step to that?
Yeah, that's something that we normally do, the committee normally does anyway, right? When you
Yep.
consider all the questions at question selection, that is also something that the test developers, the edge team and I consider when we, construct the set of questions that we bring to the committee for question selection.
Excellent. That's the only like question I have for that bullet point. Is if we doing another process or we doing it the same thing, which is a wonderful process in of itself anyways, because I think most recent questions have been implementing style of this more so than older questions.
I mean, it's something we already do, but if you want, if the working group wants to, specifically put it like on paper, then, we can keep this bullet point.
I'm just reading the second to last paragraph about all developers should participate in specialized training each year. Should that be, is there a particular time for that, or is it something that more when you onboard someone, they can take the training and that's a good time to train all the others, such as what we do at CBA every September, I believe?
I personally think it might be beneficial each year anyway, because there's different subjects you can train on, right? So, but onboarding, they don't necessarily onboard at the same time or at the same, each year, some onboard, every 3 years or 2 years or whatever. So, I personally don't think it hurts to have each year just whatever training, to reinforce or different topics, because there are lots of topics out there. I don't know how everybody else feels.
I think initially this committee asked that it be at least annual. So that's in alignment with our request.
No, definitely. I just wanted to clarify and to see if there's a like a time period, like every summer or every fall we implement it, or is it more like a loose space once a year whenever is appropriate? Does that question make sense?
Yes, I think if you leave it open, then to Lisa's point, if an emerging issue comes up that requires more immediate training, you don't have to wait till the fall or something. And it doesn't say once a year, it just says each year. So there may be more than one training in a year, but we're ensuring that every year there's some revisiting of these issues.
Thank you for the clarification. That's excellent to hear. And the last paragraph is fine as is. Any other additional comments or thoughts?
Just that we're looking forward to the proposals. Referenced in the last paragraph.
Right?
If there's no other additional comments or thoughts, I guess we can move to, I guess, is it adopting them to propose, or what's the legal procedure for this?
Can I make a suggestion? Can we approve it in concept? Because
Yeah.
there are a couple committee members who aren't here, and maybe we can circulate them for feedback. And if they wanted to tweak the language a little bit or modify it, that would be okay. I mean, if that's okay with all of you, because what's going to happen is this is going to be part of a board agenda item. There'll be kind of a short memo that goes along with it. The staff will draft, and then this will be obviously the main crux of it. But that will give us some flexibility.
No, definitely. That's what I was thinking as well. But you put it more eloquently than I can. I think, yeah, we can adopt the concept of this draft of the language. We can circulate around to everybody to get any additional feedback. And then we can either have another diff meeting, or we can just say these are our the draft of guiding principles at the next CBE, probably not this week, but the next CBE of next year. We can probably introduce that. Is that sounds like doable for everybody?
Amy, do you know what board meeting this is going to be presented at?
Probably January.
Okay.
Yes. So if that's the case, that it usually happens towards the end of January. I'm wondering if we should meet prior to that, like have one more session, maybe first or second week in January. So we can do two things. One is have gathered more feedback, so we can share this and ask for comments from each of the working group members to finalize it, as well as add any additional language that we wanted to in terms of the staff's proposal for increasing diversity in the pool of developers. And then, yeah, that prep then for the board meeting in January.
Well, if I guess if we are having one more meeting, then there's probably no value in approving it now. Then we could just circulate it and come back and do the final approval in January.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm just looking up when we can have another meeting right now. We can do the week of January 3rd or the week of January 10th. Of course, the week of January 3rd is when people may be on vacation, slightly still coming back, and they'll be swamped and catching up. So it might be the week of January 10th might be the best for everybody. And I'm looking at, and if you want, Martin Luther King Jr. Day is on Monday of January 17th.
Should we send out a doodle poll just to make sure our chairs are available?
Yeah, yep.
Let's do that. And also the problem with having it at the meeting the week of the 10th is that the board meeting is right at the following week. And so, and it's a short week. So I think let's do a doodle poll and then make the determinations to when this goes to the board based on that.
I support that as well. That would be more flexible in terms of trying to get everybody's time and everything. And if a doodle is able to be sent out sometime this week, we can collect the data and figure that out. Is there anything else that people want to discuss about this? I think we have our battle plan in place, which is circulate this around, circulate with the doodle poll to see when is everybody's availability in January. Probably inform people that they have another prior commitment, which would be the CBE meeting in near end of January, so that way it doesn't conflict with anything else. And that's essentially it. Is there anything else I missed or should discuss? Hearing absolute silence. I think that would be near the wrap up of this meeting, unless if there's any other discussion or agenda items we need to discuss? Again, hearing absolute silence. I think we can move to adjourn the meeting. Is that something that is appropriate for now? Receiving silence, but nods of yes. I think I'll move to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second?
Second,
Can I adjourn the meeting or propose that, or someone else has to?
I think that's
You can-
fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's fine. You can adjourn it. You're perfectly fine. Yeah.
I'll adjourn, and we got a second by Ms. Heather Anderson. I guess we have to do roll call, or is it just approval of yeas?
You don't have to do roll call.
No,
yeah.
no,
Okay.
we're good.
With that approval, ish, I adjourn this meeting.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Have a
you,
great day.
everyone.
Everyone.
Thank
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.